In Iceland, we take our father's name and we always have our father's name. My name is Hjalmsdottir, which means daughter of Hjálmur. This feeling of walking into the Olympic Stadium, there are 90,000 people, and I just remembered the noise, the sheer noise. It's unreal, the atmosphere and the power. He never got the chance to see me compete at major championships. But every single time that I do, I get to wear his name on my chest. This saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, it may sound like a cliche, but it is very true. You only have two choices. You lie down or you get up. You can't just lie down, so you have to get up, and you have to find a way to get up. I was asked when I was living in Switzerland if I would compete for Switzerland. I cannot imagine standing on a podium and listening to the national anthem. It wouldn't mean anything. It is just this feeling, this deep pride. There is nothing like it. When I was 10 years old, all of my friends, they were gonna go on a competition, and I wanted to go too. I started training, I think, a week or two before the competition, and I finished second. I remember coming home and announcing to my parents that I was gonna go to the Olympics one day. And of course, like when a 10-year-old kid comes and tells you they're going to the Olympics, you're like, oh, good for you, of course you will. But here I am 3 Olympics later. I was 12 years old, and it was the first competition. Among the events that I was signed up for was shot put, and I had never tried it before. And I remember because my dad, he was teaching me shot put out in the garden the night before the competition with rocks that we picked up from the ground. I went to the competition and I ended up throwing 16 centimeters short of the Icelandic record in my age category. So then my coaches were a little bit like, oh, okay, you can throw things, you will throw. I remember the training still. My dad came to pick me up. It was the first training that I managed to have the javelin fly straight. I was so proud. I came running to the car, you know what I gotta do? Ah! He came to every competition and he would talk to everyone. And he knew all of my competitors and he was cheering them on as well. He taught me that you don't want to win because you held someone else back and he did bad. You want everybody to do their best and you win because you are the best. When I had a PR, we always went for our ice cream drive. We just drive around and just talk. I am so grateful that I had him for those 20 years. When I was 20 years old, my dad got a job on the other side of Iceland. My parents got divorced a few years before, and he really loved it there. But unfortunately, he got sick when he was younger, and he was struggling with depression. He ended up taking his own life. The horrible thing is that I had tried to call him the same day. And my mom had called me, I was in training. And I saw a missed call and I was like, what is this? And then she calls again. I'm like, why is she calling me again? This must be something. And then I get a text message saying, come home now. And I just started thinking, like, oh my God, everything that could have happened. Like something happened to someone, I know it. The first thing that came to my head was my brother. And I called him, and he was fine. And he had gotten the same thing, and he was on his way to Mom. I'm like, oh my God, what about Dad? I had named myself my spoiled little brat in his phone. So when we went and got all of his stuff and I got his phone, then I saw 2 missed calls. My spoiled little brat. Litla degurdýrið mitt. First after it happened, it was very difficult. Of course, everybody shocked. They were home crying. And I decided, I think it was the day after. It had been 24 hours of misery and crying and shock, and I thought, I have to keep going. I have to go to training. It was not for me or for the sport. It was just thinking about, he wouldn't want this. He wouldn't want me to sit here and stop all of this. The way that I look at my relationship with my dad, instead of being sad that I don't have him here anymore, instead, I am so grateful that it happened. This poem was written for me after the passing of my father. I got it sent in the mail from a man that knew him. Kveðja glímu garpinn hjálm, grætur hjartastaður, hann á skilið hlýjan sálm, hann var þannig maður. Sárti þegar svona fer, sundu slitna böndin, grepin sorg og gráti gamla skagaströndin. What he's writing about in this poem is, even though he is now gone, he will still be with me with all his heart. If my dad was still alive, I would want him to know how everyone felt losing him, because I don't think he realized how appreciated and how loved he was. And even though it's been such a long time, it's 12 years later, I would want him to know that we still think of him every day and how much we miss him and how much we would give for just being able to have him with us for one more day. The pain never really goes away, you just learn to live with it. That is something that a friend of mine told me. The next season, I really struggled to just have competitions, and Dad wasn't there. And the year before, I had gotten a stress fracture and a small bone in my foot. And then it took like 2 whole months just to start walking again. In May, I am in the middle of my final exams at the university, and after a 3-hour written exam where my forearm got really tight, I go to a throwing session and I tear a tendon in my elbow. So I was out for the 2007 season. And then I fell and landed on my hand, and I broke a bone in my right hand. Difficulty on top of tragedy, on top of difficulty, and everything just kept going. Then it was a race against time to try to qualify for my first Olympics in Beijing. I ended up qualifying, but I paid the price for it. a month before the games, I hurt my elbow again. This had been from early 2005 till end of 2008, just injury on top of injury, and then I lose my dad and everything was just kind of clamping together. It was the last straw that I failed to qualify for the finals of the Europeans. When I started school, it was not really my thing. I remember after a parent-teacher meeting once, where my teacher was obviously just complaining about me. She talked to my parents and told them what was up. That night when he was tucking me in, my dad asked me, just really like no judgment, if I wanted to be a slacker. After that, it's like a different kid. The athletic career can only go on for so long, and then you have to have something to fall back on. I mean, depression among retiring athletes is incredibly high. When I was going through this injury period, I went to study pharmacy, and I had always been interested in doing a PhD. Because if I get injured and all I do is training, if I put all my eggs in one basket, what happens if I drop that basket? The last year really of my PhD was really tough to balance that with the sport. And there was a lot of pressure coming from my supervisor, and when I went to competitions, I was taking time off from the lab. Usually when people do that, they go on holidays and they come back relaxed, but I was going into high stress situations. And then it was this double life, because when I came there with my athlete friends, as soon as the competition was over, their stress was over and they would go home and relax. I had to go straight back to the lab, and sometimes even directly from the airport. I wasn't recovering enough from my training. Like, my body could maybe just not handle so much training volume anymore, because I've been doing this for a long time, and just maybe I have reached my limits. It got to the point where I thought, am I cut out for this? Just like, have I gotten as far as I can with this whole thing? I've been trying to figure out my nutrition myself. So when I started WAG, because I was so kind of painted into a corner, I just thought, I have nothing to lose. It can't get worse, so let's try it. Already in the first week, it was just such a huge difference. I felt so much better, my mood was better, and already I felt like I was recovering from my trainings. All of a sudden, instead of coming home in the evening after training and being in the lab, I don't have the problem of lacking energy. I can do my program. It really feels like it's added years to my career, because now I can do my training, I'm recovering, I'm improving in everything, and I've never been in better shape than I'm in right now. Like I said, I've been doing this for a really long time. This one, I think it was the national championships when I was about 18 years old or so. And I threw a huge PR that day. Here I have basically my whole career in bibs. Like the 3 Olympics right here. This is from Rio, London, and from Beijing. I think it's pretty cool now to just look at all the major championships that I've done. You can see it all in hindsight, just like this. A lot of Olympic memories. This picture here was taken right after I qualified for the Olympic final. As you can see, a lot of joy here after all this hard work. It's hard to describe the joy in that moment. At last year's World Championships, so in 2017, I had just broken the national record very shortly before, and I was in great shape. In the major championships, you get 3 throws to qualify for the final. It can be really nerve-wracking. And I kind of just took the pressure off of myself. And then I come in there and I throw over the automatic qualifier line. I didn't know when it landed. These few seconds waiting for the number to come up, it felt like an eternity. I wished that I could have shared that moment with my dad. I feel right now like I can't stop here. My story isn't done. I want to get medals. I have been to finals of now World Championships, Europeans, and Olympics, but I haven't gotten a medal yet. This chasing my potential and knowing that it is not here yet, I can still do more. I want to see where I can get. I think my dad would be proud of what I've done and who I am. He never got the chance to see me compete at major championships. But every single time that I do, I get to wear his name on my chest.